you've ever tried the Pomodoro technique or have heard of it and you've thought, why is this stressing me out more than helping? Well, you're not alone. Today, I'm going to be unpacking the four types of people that likely thrive with the Pomodoro technique. And then we're also going to look at the four types of people that are likely going to hate it. Let's make sure we understand what am I talking about here when I reference the Pomodoro technique. So this was something that was created back in the 1980s. I think the gentleman was Francesco Cirillo. And the way the Pomodoro technique works is this. You get an actual timer and you set it for 25 minutes. And you sit down and do focused work for 25 minutes. And when the timer goes off, no matter what, you stop and you take a 5-minute break. Then you reset the timer. That is considered one Pomodoro, is a 25-minute work session with a 5-minute break. Now, after you've done 4 rounds of this, so you've done 4 of the 25 and 5, then you schedule a 15 to 30-minute break. So essentially, it means that you're doing 2 hours broken up into these 4 chunks. Then you take a longer, usually 30-minute break, and then you restart again. All right. So this is something that I get asked a lot, like, oh, what do you think about the Pomodoro technique? Is that going to help me or not? And I get really frustrated when I see people in the productivity space saying with 100% certainty that the Pomodoro technique is a great win for everybody. All right. The fact is, it's not. So, first, let's look at the 4 kind of types of people or personality traits that I see that likely have success with the Pomodoro technique. Now, notice I'm going to say likely have success. If you feel like you're one of these 4 categories I'm going to talk about, you still may not do well with it. And that's why I'm going to share with you the types of people that probably are not going to have a lot of success with the Pomodoro technique. So, the types of people that usually thrive with this is a technique that is talked about a lot inside of the ADHD community or people that know that they just are very easily distracted, right? Some just executive functioning distraction skills. And the reason why Pomodoro can help here is having that subconsciously knowing I have a break coming allows to quiet some of that distraction. And so kind of setting into, okay, I'm only going to do this for 25 minutes and then I know I get a break can be very helpful there. Another type where Pomodoro can get a lot of wins is if you are someone that is really easily overwhelmed by big projects. All right. So if you are always hesitant, you're like, this is such a big project, it's going to take so long and you just keep not starting, the Pomodoro technique can be a perfect play there because you're stepping into it going, well, I'm just going to start, just going to go for 25 minutes and then take a break. Instead of this, I have to complete this huge project and that feels overwhelming. Now, a third category where Pomodoro can be great is if you are someone that is working on very intentionally building what I call your focus muscle. This is different from category 1 where I was talking about like true ADHD. You just may be in a state where you're like, I noticed my focus isn't as good as it used to be, and I really want to get back into having clear focus. Pomodoro can be a great way to start to kind of stretch that for you because you're stepping into it going, all right, I'm going to do deep focus for 25 minutes. And the people that I see use Pomodoro in that kind of category might use it for a month or so, and then they let it go, right? Because they're like, all right, I've got my focus muscle back. The fourth category is one where if you are working on something that you really don't want to do, so you're kind of battling this resistance, right? Example in my life, if I'm looking around, I've got to do some cleaning around the house. I don't enjoy that. But when you leverage Pomodoro to say, you know what, I'm just going to do it for 25 minutes and I'm going to take a break. It can be helpful if you're working against resistance. All right, so let's recap here the 4 types of people or scenarios where Pomodoro technique tends to have a lot of success. For, again, not all people with ADHD, but some people in the ADHD community really thrive with this, or if you are very, very easily distracted. The second one, if it's a big project that feels overwhelming, it can be a good play. The third one, if you are really trying to build your focus muscle. And then the fourth one, if there's something that you're like resisting that I really don't want to do it. stepping into that 25-minute mentality can be a great win. Now, let's look at the four kind of situations or personality types that I do not recommend Pomodoro technique. All right, the first one is this. If you are an individual and you know you thrive in deep state or flow work, right? You know you are someone when I sit down to work, like I want to get into flow state and let it roll. Pomodoro is going to drive you crazy because that timer is going to go off after 25 minutes and you're going to be like totally pulled out of your work. It's going to feel very disrupting, right? And you're going to have a hard time getting back into flow state. The second time where I just know, hey, I would not recommend Pomodoro here. Typically, I don't see this working well in the creative community. All right. So you're an artist, you're a musician, you're sitting down to maybe even a writer, right? Similar ish to flow state, but where you need a lot of brainstorming creative work, that timer going off is very, very jarring. I'm sure there is a creative out there that says, oh, I love and use the Pomodoro technique. I have not met one yet. And I always ask because I'm curious, like, can this play well in the creative space? Now, the third type where I know it typically doesn't work well, if you are high anxiety, oftentimes, again, not true for everyone. I'm not going to make a blanket statement for anybody. Timers can really play into your anxiety, right? So if you are someone and you already know a timer causes anxiety for you, do not try the Pomodoro technique because you are going to be like your nervous system is going to be kind of jacked up the entire time you're working because you're stressing out about the timer. All right. So I would encourage you probably to not even dip your toe in the water of testing it out. Finally, this one's a really subtle one is if you would consider yourself someone that is kind of a perfectionist, right? Almost coachable to a fault, meaning if someone is giving you a system or a tool and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it perfectly. I want to make sure I do it exactly right. What can start to happen when you're using the Pomodoro technique is you are so wrapped up in the technique of like, I've got to do this right. It's got to be 25 minutes, not a minute later. How am I going to get that timer set quickly for the 5-minute break? How am I going to spend my 5-minute break? And you're so focused on the technique and perfecting it that you're missing the whole point, which is what you're actually working on when you're working. All right, so I'm going to recap those again real quick. Scenarios where I typically don't see the Pomodoro technique work well. If you are someone that thrives in flow state or deep work, creatives usually don't do well here. If you are someone where you already run pretty anxious, a timer can really elevate that. And then the last one again, if you know that you are a perfectionist, like, okay, if I learn this system, I have to follow it exactly to the letter, you're going to be so focused on the technique, you're going to be missing the actual work. Now, people always ask me, hey, Megan, do you yourself use the Pomodoro technique? I have tried it in different stages of my life. I've tried it in corporate settings. I've tried it, I might run my own business here at the Pink Bee, and I have never managed to get the Pomodoro technique to work for me. The one ish I have with it is if I am working against resistance, right? Like when I was talking about cleaning my house, knowing if I'm like, hey, I'm just going to set a timer and I'm going to do what I can for 25 minutes can oftentimes help me get started. But then when the timer goes, if I'm in it, I'm not going to take the break. So I would not call that the Pomodoro technique. I don't actually follow it there, but I will occasionally leverage a timer when I am working against resistance to just be like, hey, let's just see how much we can get done in this chunk of time. And then when the timer goes off, I may stop or I may continue going. So, I am a time management and planning expert for women. I have years of expertise on this. And I personally cannot use the Pomodoro technique. It does not work well for me. However, I know a lot of highly productive, amazing people who pretty much operate every day, all day long in the Pomodoro technique, and they love it. So it's really important to remember there is no one size fits all when it comes to systems, tools, and strategies to help you avoid procrastinating, to help you level up your output. So anytime someone is introducing a technique and saying this works for everyone, I would hesitate, right? Take a minute and go, are you sure about that? And if you have not tried the Pomodoro technique, go out there, give it a try. And if it doesn't work for you, it's not that you're doing it wrong. It's that you may be in one of those four buckets that I talked about where you're like, this is not a great fit. So I would love to know in the comments below, are you pro Pomodoro or are you a nope, this is not a tool for me? And share the whys behind that because I think it's going to help other people that are, determining is this something that they want to try or not, help them maybe see themselves in some of the comments, right? To decide, yeah, let's go ahead and give it a go. And friends, there is nothing wrong with trying something out first and then making the decision if it is a good fit for you or not.